the runway. This runway is ours.
And Midland traffic, Juliet Kilo Yankee, taxiing from apron to 16 for 16 departure. And Midland traffic, Juliet Charlie Papa, clear 16.
So what you're going to expect here is I'm going to be accelerating this plane down the runway. Once we reach a certain speed, I'm going to start pulling back on this nose and we will be airborne. Usually within the first 500 feet of a climb, we might have some turbulence. It's completely normal, so the plane might rock around a little bit. Just giving you the heads up to expect it. And the higher we get, the smoother the air will get. We'll get out towards where the lake is, and from there I'll start showing you how to take the controls of this thing.
Sounds good.
All right, so let's do it.
And Midland traffic, Juliet Kilo Yankee, on the roll, 16.
Just pushing my throttle in full. I'm at full power now. Steering this plane with my feet. Pulling that nose off the ground a little bit. There we go. Airborne. I'm getting rid of my flaps. Don't need them anymore. All right, now we're only 200 feet over the ground.
Kilo Yankee airborne on the 16 with a right turn out towards the shoreline of Georgian Bay, traveling north. Going to be climbing to 2,000. Collingwood traffic, Bravo Extra Whiskey now overhead the field for the left-hand downwind runway 13.
Yeah, there's a few little clouds today. I came from that direction, right? And that cloud becomes super thick.
Yeah, it looks very thick over there.
We're now 1,000 feet over the ground.
Bravo X-ray Whiskey turning downwind 13.
Altitude.
I'll just climb up a little bit more. No need to go too high, because once you get too high, it kind of ruins the fun of it. You don't recognize things on the ground, right? Okay. There we go. So I've reached where I want to be. Nice 2,000 feet. I'm pulling back my power because I don't need it anymore to climb. So that what we're feeling there that's thermal activity. That's being caused by the sun.
Okay.
It's kind of punching through these clouds, hitting the ground and bouncing straight up. So it's causing a little bit of turbulent bubbles. They're just annoying. Okay. Generally when we get near the water, it'll calm down. That's why I like to do a flight out this way. You can start feeling it starting to get a little more stable here. Because the water tends to absorb those sun rays. It doesn't shoot them back up at us.
Okay. Only on warm days, or?
Yeah, like the warm summer days.
Yeah.
The nastiest is, say, like a 33-degree summer day with no clouds in the sky is the worst time to fly.
Calling the traffic, Bravo X-ray Whiskey, turning final 13 full stop.
All right, so it looks like we're kind of alone out here. There's no other aircraft in the area, which is nice. Mind you, they are hard to see. That's why we communicate with these with the radio, right?
Okay.
So let's start showing you the basics of this thing. So if you want to take your left hand and put your left hand gently on that control stick, I'm going to start just going through a few turns with you so you can feel how much this stick is supposed to move. The reason why I say left hand, since you're on that side of the aircraft, if you were training to be a pilot, you need your other hand available to do the throttle, do your switches, your radio controls, if you have to write.
Yeah.
So that's why the majority of pilots will always learn with their left hand on that side of the plane, right? So from here, if I want to take this plane and start doing, say, it's kind of nasty out there, we'll stay right here, but we'll do a right turn. I just want you to feel how small the movement is on the control stick. So just a little bit of a right turn. I'm just looking forward at the time, and you can feel the turn start when I just give a little tug like that. That's it. See, the turn starts happening. You can feel the plane banking, and it'll keep going. It'll keep rolling and rolling and rolling unless I correct and pull back just a little bit. So say that's the direction I want to turn to, now it leveled back off. Now conversely, if I want to go left, it's just a small little tug to the left. You'll feel the turn start. Turn is happening, and if I want to arrest that turn, I just pull back just a little bit.
Traffic, Bravo, your whiskey is down and clear of the active.
You'll notice the movements on this control stick are very, very gentle. Back to what I was discussing with you on the ground, where this plane is very touchy, but ends up turning out fantastic pilots because it is so touchy.
Okay.
Now if I want to climb the plane, all I got to do is pull the stick back towards me a little bit. Just a little bit of pullback, you'll see how that nose starts coming up. This tells us what we're doing for altitude. You can see that needle starting to climb. We're now at 2,100 feet. And the reason why I stopped there is I can continue to climb, but if I want to keep climbing, I'm going to need to add power. Okay. Because we start slowing down when we climb, right? And if I want to go down, a little bit of a push forward, and we're now going towards the ground. You can almost feel the vibration in the aircraft increasing. That means our airspeed is increasing at the same time. Okay. And this needle will confirm that we are going down. The needle's dropping, those numbers are getting smaller. Okay. I'll bring it back to that 2,000 there. There we go. Now we could be at any altitude we like to be at, because this is uncontrolled airspace. Okay. If we were flying near Toronto, they would tell us what altitude to be at. But here we have freedom, so. If you want to give this thing a try, I don't mind if you do a left or right turn. I would recommend a right because you have the ground to look at. If we go that way, it's going to kind of disappear with the size of Georgian Bay. But just try to keep your eyes forward. That way you're looking out of the aircraft and you'll feel the turn start. And don't worry, I won't allow you to do anything that's going to get us into any trouble. My hand is right here. Okay. So feel free to do whatever you like with that control stick.
So when I go right, I turn it?
Yep. Yeah, just give a little push of it to the right and you'll feel the roll happen. See how the wings are starting to roll that way?
Yep.
And if you want to stop the turn, you just pull it back in the other direction. Very nice. So essentially the sky and the geography is ours here. We can fly any direction you want. Okay. The purpose of an introductory flight is to get your air legs, essentially. Play with the aircraft, right? Okay. Have fun with it. Do whatever you want. If you start climbing, I'll respond by adding power. Okay. So I'll take care of throttle controls. Okay. And you steer. Go nuts.
Can we cross over to Christian and circle around?
We could. Yeah.
It's really reactive.
Very. Yeah, it generally takes somebody, people usually about 2 hours to really get a handle of the way the controls are responding. Yeah. And then after that, we dig right into like serious training, right?
Turning downwind for 13, stop and go.
I should keep that around 2,000?
It's fine to be wherever you are.
Okay.
You can be at any altitude you want.
Okay.
Higher is actually better. The only problem is the higher we go today, it's so kind of soupy out here, we're going to start losing that visibility of the ground.
Okay.
If you find the plane keeps climbing on its own, that means I didn't trim it right.
Okay.
There's a small tab on the back of the plane connected to what we call the elevator. that is controlled by this little button here. There's a setting here that tells me where my trim is.
Okay.
I almost feel that it wants to climb a little bit, so I'm just going to give one little tap on that downwards, and that way it'll help pitch your nose forward a little bit.
Okay.
There we go, it's not climbing anymore.
Calling with traffic, 0 Delta Golf doing a simulated engine failure from base for 13.
Yeah, the air is very smooth here.
What a view.
Oh yeah. You probably think that we're moving pretty slow because it always feels like that.
Okay.
Right now we're doing, give or take, 88 knots, 87 knots. So to convert that, 100 knots is equal to 115 miles per hour.
Okay.
So if you know how to do your conversion from miles per hour to kilometers, where 100 miles per hour is 160 kilometers,
Yeah.
we're moving at about 150 right now.
Okay. You're right, it feels much slower when you don't really realize how fast you're going.
Yeah. How's it feeling so far on the control?
Pretty good.
Good
Pretty smooth.
traffic, 0 Delta Golf airborne on 13, staying in the circuit.
And if you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to ask.
Okay.
With flight training, I'm a real firm believer there is truly no such thing as a stupid question.
Okay.
I understand that aviation in general tends to be intimidating to people that have never flown in it before. So please, don't hesitate to ask anything.
What's the lowest you would safely fly?
That would depend on what area I'm flying over.
Okay.
So another thing a pilot's always doing is when we're flying, even just for joy, whatever, we're flying around, we're always looking for a place to land.
Okay.
So even right now when we're flying in this area, the only place that I spotted to land was the beach over there. So in the event of an engine failure, a pilot always needs to know where to land. So keep in mind that the lower we are, the less our envelope of safety is.
Okay.
So we can fly right here at 500 feet over the ground if we want to.
Yeah.
However, if our engine failed, the plane glides at a certain ratio, right?
Okay.
And I will demonstrate the glide ratio to you whenever we get, say, over like farmland or something.
Okay.
Yeah, so back to that, like if we're over top of a town, we must be 1,000 feet above civilization.
Okay.
But since this is not considered civilization, we can be at 500 feet.
Makes sense.
And if it's truly inhabited, we could be as low as we want.
Yeah. Okay. And how about height? How high would you normally want to go? Like if you're flying somewhere, like you're heading back to Barrie, let's say.
Visibility is one thing you want to keep in mind. I always like to stay at that 1,000 feet above ground.
Okay.
Minimum, but that's just because that's where my comfort level is.
Yeah.
Some pilots want to be 2,000 feet over the ground.
Okay.
It all depends on experience and comfort and handling of the aircraft.
Okay.
Wow, this is serious forest here. As you can see, you're doing everything. I'm sitting back here chilling, man. My legs are back here. I'm not needing the rudders right now. My hands are doing nothing.
Hollywood traffic, 0 Delta Golf doing a simulated engine failure from base for 13.
So that's a pilot that's practicing simulated engine failures we just heard on the radio.
Okay.
So what he's doing is he's essentially flying what we call the circuit, which is a pattern that's around the airport.
Okay.
And he's shutting his engine down, but not off.
Okay.
He'll be pulling his power back to nothing, and then trying to make the runway without having to use his power. So pilots will do that. They'll frequently just go up on an afternoon and practice engine failures.
Okay.
So in the event it ever does happen, you're ready for it, and you're not going to freak out, right?
Okay.
So back to your question about altitudes, in the case of like an area like here, I'm looking around and I'm saying, you know what, there's nowhere to land.
Yeah.
There is no, you know, if we had an engine failure, I'd probably go for that pond right there.
Okay.
That little lake.
Yeah.
Very rare is it equipment failure, plane failure, stuff like that.
Good to know.
Because once I show you how this aircraft glides with, say, no engine, you'll be amazed that anybody ever does get injured in an engine failure. The thing almost feels like we're still doing what we're doing right now. It feels like full controlled flight, just with a slight nose down attitude. That's it.
Okay.
We can fully control left and right. You have plenty of time to look around where you want to land.
Okay.
Yeah, so when a pilot generally plans, say, like a flight from here to Toronto or something, what we do is we'll pull out a map and we'll try to look for the best route, the safest route to get there. Okay. Sometimes it's not always the straightest route. So in that, a pilot will be taking that into account. Like, ideally, you want to fly over farmers' fields.
Gotcha.
So if that ever happens, you just land on a field. No big deal.
Okay.
If you're over the thick of the city, well, you're limited to highways, right?
Yes, yeah. What's the width of this plane?
29.5 feet.
Okay. If the engine was a conk out, would we safely get to that farm field over there?
We could make that farm field there. Yeah. So that's a way to make sure that the student is always being mindful of their surroundings. Okay. Because you should always have an answer for that before the question's asked, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And it takes time to recognize distance from different altitudes. So here we are roughly, I'd say, 1,400 feet over the ground.
Okay.
So at 1,400 feet, we would definitely make that farmer's field. If we were at 3,000 feet, that field would almost look like it's below us. So we would be able to make fields, of course we would make that one, but we would be able to make ones way further in the distance.
Okay. Keep gliding down them.
Exactly.
Yep. When you were testing the spark plugs, was that just certain parts of the motor that would be turned on?
Exactly. Well, the way it is, it's a 4-stroke, 4-cylinder engine.
Okay.
And but it has 8 spark plugs for the 4 cylinders. So the top of the head has 2 plugs in each piston. So when I was doing that, I was shutting off one of those plugs in each piston.
Okay.
So that way it was showing me that both of them were operating uniformly.
Okay.
And that's designed so if you have a failure of one of your spark systems, the other one's still running.
Okay.
So with aviation, we build redundancy into everything, right?
Yeah.
even in the case of these digital screens. There's a master battery for the aircraft, and then each of these screens have their own independent batteries. So if by chance that one was to, I don't know, fail totally, this one will run. Okay, because they're independent, although they're linked with a data cable, but they're still independent. If our master battery or charging system failed, they'll operate off their backup batteries for 45 minutes. Okay. So that's plenty of time to find an airport to land.
The back end, that turbulence, that would be the heat coming off the land?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so at this time of day when the sun is almost right up there, those sun rays are hitting us directly straight on. Okay. So in the morning when the sun rays are coming in from that direction, they kind of bounce up on an angle and get diffused. Okay. But when the sun is right up there, that's when it gets nasty. Okay. We're being protected by that cloud right now. It's acting like sunblock for the Earth. Yeah. But once we get out of this clouded area, that's when we're going to start getting that turbulence. Oh, okay.
When would you use the foot pedals?
I can show you. So if you want to gently put your feet on those pedals. So I'm going to show you what they do. Okay. So we're flying along. Let's get it going nice and straight. Now if I give a left push of my foot, watch what happens. See how the plane's starting to turn a bit? Okay. It's digging in and turning left. So I'm going to pull back on that. There we go. Okay. I won't let nothing happen. And I'm going to straighten out these wings again. There we go, nice and straight. Flying along, and I want to push my right foot. It'll start turning the plane right. You can almost feel our butt kind of move a little bit when I did that. Yep. So what it's doing is pushing the tail that way. I'm deliberately forcing the tail in that direction. Okay. And what we use that for is, it's extremely important for takeoff and landing to make sure that the plane is flying parallel with the runway. Okay. So if we're coming down to the runway and the wind's pushing us, we might be a little bit sideways. Yep. And at the last minute, we got to push our feet to straighten that tail out. Okay. Now, when we do that, we're creating drag on the aircraft. Okay. So that's why we start dropping down. So when I do that little push again to the left,
okay, we got you.
Feel how it starts diving now. It starts coming down. Okay. We're losing altitude. It's no different than, you know, driving a boat and you throw an anchor out the back and just let it pull through the water. It's creating drag on your boat, right? Okay. So by me pushing that rudder, it creates drag. But we also use that whenever we're flying in a strong wind. If the wind is pushing us, say, from our left, pushing this way, and we want to fly straight towards, say, Barrie, which is like straight ahead, or Aurelia, straight ahead there. Okay. You'll notice the plane will be drifting. So we correct that by using our rudder. So if the plane was, right now I can feel the winds coming right towards us, but if the plane was drifting, I'd be putting a little bit of left rudder and controlling this a little bit right on the stick. Okay. So that way it's flying in a straight direction to where I want to go, but from the person looking up from the ground, the plane looks like it's flying crooked, because we're compensating for wind drift. Yep. So that's what we use them for. Okay. Takeoff, landing especially. Yep. And it also helps us in those turns clean up our turns. Gotcha. This plane is very, very forgiving for doing turns. The tail tends to stay in line of where we want it to be. Okay. But other aircraft is very tail demanding. So when you start a left turn, you're going to want to start pushing a little left rudder to make sure that the tail follows your turn. Oh, okay. If not, the danger is the tail could slip right out. Yeah. And you go into a condition what's called a spin, and the plane will just start doing this, side to side, side to side. Okay. Now, you would know a condition like that is coming. You would feel the G-forces. It would be crazy. Oh, okay. So it wouldn't just happen really out of the blue? No. Okay. You would feel, what it's like is, imagine you're in a rear-wheel drive car in an icy parking lot in the winter, and you're pulling that emergency brake. Gotcha. Just a fishtail. Yep. That's what our rudders allow us to do. We control the fishtail. Okay. And if you pull that emergency brake too hard, what will happen? The car will go whoop, whoop, and do a full flip, right? Yep. Well, you'd never want that to happen in a plane.
Gotcha.
So that we fight it with this, with the rudders.
Okay.
Coming up over Penetang.
That's normal stuff here?
Yep.
Okay.
Hollywood traffic is Zulu Delta Golf, turning downwind for 13, stop and go.
What we're hearing is pilots in Collingwood talking.
Okay.
Yeah, that's normal. In order to avoid this, we have to go back out towards water area.
Okay.
It's a little unnerving the first time feeling that.
Yeah.
As long as your stomach is okay,
Oh, yeah, my stomach's good.
and then trust me when I say that's completely normal.
Okay.
I'm prepared for it.
Okay.
Do you recognize what you're seeing from up here?
This is so Penetang directly below us.
Yep, Penetang, yep.
Okay. That's Midland over there.
It is, yeah.
We circle around by Midland?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go wherever you want.
Collingwood traffic, Collingwood traffic, Zulu Delta Golf doing a simulated engine failure on base for 13.
This is a very nice area to fly over, this whole peninsula up here, right? It's really nice when it's not such a humid, like foggy day like this, because your visibility here is amazing.
Okay, yeah, you just keep seeing everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, on a clear day, like clear winter days when I fly, you can see Toronto from here.
Oh,
Pretty cool to see the skyline from here.
Yeah.
There's your super jail down there.
Okay.
An imposing structure. Some people are so persistent. They call you, and they keep calling, and they keep calling. Just leave a message.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are under the impression that we only have like a few more months for flying. They don't realize that we fly in the winter, we fly year round. Planes have heaters, right?
Yeah. Just keep going.
Absolutely. They're trying to get all their flying in now.
This must be Victoria Harbour?
Coming up on it, yep.
Okay.
I think actually Victoria Harbour would be further down. See where you see a water tower way off in the distance there? It's kind of tough to see.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is still Penetang. This is, I always forget the name of the big marina here where Henry's Fish House is.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, we cover a lot of ground pretty quick in this thing.
Oh yeah. So I'm dropping a little bit, I guess, because I'm turning too quick.
Yeah, in a turn you'll start losing, you know, it's like Newton's law, right? As you're starting to turn, you're creating forces on the plane, so you will descend.
Okay.
So generally we just got to compensate for a little bit of a pullback during the turn.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I'll give you a little bit more power setting.
Calling with traffic, this is Zulu Delta Golf, turning downwind.
Any particular spot you'd like to fly over and check out?
I was checking out my restaurant, the boathouse. I think we're right over top of it.
Oh, cool.
I live right over by Bayport. Just kind of seeing the aerial view here.
What's the name of your business?
The Boathouse Eatery.
Okay. Very nice. Had that for a while?
About 5 years now.
Very nice.
Keeps me busy.
Okay, roger that. We're going to extend
That's
our
always good.
downwind a little bit then. Give you a bit of time. Zulu Delta Golf, so runway 13 coming with traffic.
To Simcoe, we are currently descending through 2.7, plan to join a straight in downwind for the
That's in Brampton, you said?
Bradford.
Oh, Bradford, okay.
Yeah, just near Newmarket there.
Okay. Oh, okay, gotcha, Bradford. Whoa, it's some climbing there.
Yeah.
That's
That is exactly that. Right now I can feel that there's a warm pocket of air pushing us upwards.
Okay.
It's sort of like, you ever been in in say like the ocean when you have the waves breaking, or you're where the surf is?
Yep.
Where you can feel those swells lift you and drop you.
Oh, okay.
It's exactly what's happening in the air right now.
Okay.
So right now we're on the crest of a hot air wave.
Okay.
And we're just about to roll over it, and I can almost feel that we're still on the top of it.
Okay.
Once we get over it, it's going to want the nose to come down a bit.
Okay. Then I can pull back towards me when that happens?
Exactly, if we want to maintain altitude. But
okay.
yeah, the first few hours of flight training is just a little bit heebie-jeebies,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Getting rid of them.
Get used to the feels.
Exactly. And once you really understand what the plane is doing and how safe these things are,
Yeah.
Geez, I've been doing this since my teens, man, and I just hit 40, so.
Flying for a while?
Yeah, I've been flying for a while, and knock on wood, never anything crazy dangerous.
60 Delta Golf backtracking to 13 with an expedite for the traffic and in the circuit.
How'd you get into flying?
Just a passion for it.
Okay.
I always just love the idea of this. Yeah. So just pull back just like that. That's it. Okay. You got it.
Good, all right.
So you know what? I'm going to show you a couple things. So I'm going to take control. Just this might help relax you a bit. I'm going to show you what this plane floats like, say, with no engine. I'm not going to shut it off. I'm just going to go right to complete idle. I'm flying the plane, everything's cool. All I have to do is make sure this plane doesn't go any slower than 60. My speedometer is right there. So as long as I'm staying above 60, this plane perfectly... So right now we're gliding. This is no engine. So if our engine just totally died, ran out of fuel, something stupid like that, this is what would happen. So I just wanted to get that out of your head. If you thought that this thing was going to drop, that's all it was going to feel like.
Okay.
So we're back to cruise motion. I'm not going to do anything extreme, just regular turns. So what I want to do is turn and go back in the other direction. This is just a regular turn.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to do is just look forward. I'm just looking at the land in front of me and watching the way it's turning. I can see that the nose is staying relatively level with the horizon.
Okay.
And that way I can guarantee we're not dropping or ascending at the same time. That was a perfectly normal controlled turn. These planes are capable of doing really crazy turns, but I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
So right now I'm still maintaining my altitude, and I'm going to do a left turn. And this is how we would inspect something on the ground, right? We just turn like this and just look straight down. We're not climbing, we're not descending, we're just kind of just doing a nice turn. They soar. The plane just wants to fly. Speed is your best friend. Okay. Speed keeps us flying.
Okay.
So as long as these numbers are up here, this plane will fly.
Okay.
Anytime you get below 60, we start getting in the area where it wants to descend. The air's starting to get a little mushy under the wings.
Okay.
That's called slow flight. But as long as this is here, and if pilots would remember that, just concentrate on your airspeed and forget about what made you nervous, everything will be fine.
Okay.
So right now we got great airspeed. Nothing can happen. This plane will keep flying as long as there's airspeed. It's only whenever they do, you know, I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to show you how that needle will slow down in a climb. See the needle slowing down? Okay. So if a pilot doesn't pay attention to this and they go slower than 60, that's when the trouble will happen.
And then it'll want to drop forward?
It'll drop forward. That's whenever we enter a condition called a stall. We lose all flight characteristics. The plane will then all of a sudden but a pilot might freak out during that particular instance.
Okay.
So that's why I always make sure people are very well trained and they understand that it's not a fatal condition. It's something you can survive easily just by keeping your cool and following through, getting airspeed again.
Okay.
You know, it feels counterintuitive, but essentially the plane will be pointing at the ground, but your airspeed indicator will be showing nothing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, just to show you, like, don't worry if you're oversteering, because, like I said, this is a normal turn right there. Completely normal turn.
Okay. Now, if a bird came out and hit the propeller, what would happen from that?
That would suck.
Okay.
That would require me shutting the engine off, because if we leave it running, it would be just like an engine with full throttle and in neutral.
Okay, yeah.
So we would lose all the load of the propeller.
Okay.
So I would be forced to shut it down, and then we would just be gliding down and landing on one of these fields.
Okay.
Generally, they're easy to avoid.
Charlie traffic, Sirius Charlie.
You see a bird.
We're 6 back from IPFOB inbound.
There's a rule of thumb to follow. Never fly underneath the bird, because when birds panic, they dive. So whenever you're coming up on a bird, if we saw one, I would go to the left or right of him.
Oh, okay.
If we try to tuck underneath them, that's what their reaction is going to be, is to dive, and they could dive right into us.
Okay, gotcha.
But generally you will see them, so it's fairly rare, and they don't like to be near planes.
Okay.
You know, they scatter.
Yeah.
Just like a scared cat, right?
Yep.
So there's those thermal activity. It just raised us up on the top of a bubble and let us down. So if you want to go for control again,
okay,
and we'll start.
Left hand.
Yeah.
That's Penetang strictly.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yep. Back to Penetang. Adding a little bit more power for cruising. So it's a lot like a tractor in a way, where you have a throttle control.
Okay.
You kind of set your throttle and you don't play with it really, right?
Okay.
You only play with it when you need to climb or descend. So once you're up and cruising, you notice I'm barely ever touching this thing, right? If you feel the wind pushing the wing up, fight back.
Fight back,
It's
okay.
just a fight, right?
Okay.
So it'll give you a punch from the right, lift this wing, you just punch back.
Okay.
I'm glad we didn't plug through and try yesterday, because the visibility was terrible.
Really bad, yeah.
You wouldn't have seen anything.
Is it tough flying in the rain?
It's a little different.
Yeah.
The visibility is not bad because the propeller is a big fan blowing on the windscreen.
Okay.
And you don't really need wipers because we're going so fast it just kind of wicks off real quick. But if it's really foggy, yes, then we'll be past our limitations where we can legally fly.
Okay.
So this type of aircraft you can only fly with visual reference to the ground.
Okay.
And a set amount of visibility.
Okay.
So it's illegal to fly this through clouds.
Okay.
Most pilots only have that type of license.
Okay.
Because to get the next license, that's called an instrument license.
Yeah.
And that's very advanced, and that's when you learn how to fly without ever looking out the window. So they fly only by staring at these gauges and not without that fancy computer screen behind. It's quite a skill to get.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually cool the way they train. They wear a hood that covers up their vision forward.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild. The instructor will have vision forward, but they'll fly totally blind, only seeing this.
Wow. I guess landing as well then.
So that's pretty advanced. The type of flying we're doing right now is known as VFR flying. It means we're flying by visual flight rules.
Okay.
So if we can see, we can fly.
We're good. Okay. So when you head back to Barrie, you'll just know your reference points and you just follow that way, or would you map it out?
I know my direction here like the back of my hand. I'm sure that it won't be too bad, and it's only like near Wasaga where I have to go.
Okay.
I can get underneath that cloud ceiling, and I'm also sure that it's raised up by this hour.
Okay.
I am going to text a guy that's at my office and ask him what the visibility is like before I leave, but
just in case, yeah.
So how about we turn this plane back towards the direction of the airport, which is going to be a right turn.
Okay.
You're doing very well. I'm barely on these controls at all today.
Yeah.
There's really not too much to the flying aspect until you get rid of the nerves, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once the nerves are gone, the flying part comes easy. The hardest part of being the pilot is really usually learning how to use the radio, talk the lingo, knowing your air laws, and learning navigation.
Okay.
And we do basic navigation, so it's like the roots of navigation, where we're pulling out maps, doing it all by compass. This plane is far more advanced than is needed for a training aircraft, because this has full GPS mapping and in it and everything, right? Just to give you an idea, so we have a full GPS map showing every airport, autopilot, it's got everything, right? Yeah, if I push and hold that button, it'll fly us to whatever destination I point on down there.
And it'll adjust on the...
It'll adjust.
Traffic, Cirrus Charlie, Foxtrot, Lima Golf India. We're just coming up at Bob for the RNAV 13 approach. We're 6 minutes back from the field.
So when you go back to Barrie, will you put autopilot on?
No, I still enjoy flying.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's exciting, right?
Yeah, okay.
Get to play around through those clouds. And
yeah, nice.
And like I said, I'm sure that the conditions have changed. I'm going to make an announcement to the airport we're going to.
And Midland area traffic, SportStar, India, Julia, Kilo Yankee, just over the town of Penetanguishene, inbound for landing. Going to be at 2,300 feet to fly overhead the field, drop down on the dead side, cross back over, and join a mid-left downwind for 16.
Yeah, so even that stuff I was saying on the radio there, I find a lot of people have a tough time with that. I remember having a tough time with it.
Yeah.
I was like, I love to fly, I know how to fly, I just don't want to use the damn radio.
Okay, yeah. So would you be reporting to the Huronia airport?
When I was reporting to there, I was reporting to anybody that's in the area at the time. So I called it Midland traffic is who I talked to.
Traffic, okay.
So traffic in the Midland area.
Okay.
Now the airport themselves would have heard my transmission.
Yep.
Now since it's an uncontrolled airport, they don't have to give us permission to land there.
Gotcha.
They might come back on the radio and say, caution, there's birds on the runway.
Yep, okay.
Caution, there's a deer here.
Yep.
But other than that, they don't control us in any way.
Okay.
Unless we go into a busy area like Toronto, Buttonville, stuff like the Oshawa, Kitchener, those where they actually have control towers.
Okay.
Then there's an exact procedure where I have to call and ask them for permission to enter into their airspace.
Okay.
Then they'll tell me exactly what compass heading to fly at, what altitude to be at, and then they'll tell me when they want me to turn. They'll say silly things like, make a left turn when you get over top of the green grain silo. So then you make a left turn there, right?
Okay.
Because they're trying to keep other aircraft away from each other, right?
Yeah. Would that be a certain license that you need for that?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Like there is a radio license, but that's all part of getting your pilot license, right?
All right.
So we cover that. You know, if somebody wants their pilot license, you're going to get a radio license during that.
Okay.
Generally, what I do is we offer like a 3-hour course.
Yeah.
So it's a 3-hour course, and at the end of the course, you write your test, and everybody gets it.
Okay.
After 3 hours, you'll get it, and then you just got to practice it.
Yeah.
Because you'll understand the theory of it. When you see it in multiple choice, you'll understand it.
Yeah.
But to actually do it is a different story.
I've lost my bearing. I'm not sure where the airport.
The airport is actually right there. See it?
Okay, yep.
But you're doing perfect, because this is what we're doing.
So, okay.
We're going to fly soon. We're going to take a south turn here.
Now?
Yeah, sure. You almost see where this roadway is here. We'll follow that road, the one that's going north and south here.
Okay.
You're doing very, very good.
This road right here?
Yep. Because what we have to do is we have to enter into a landing pattern. It's known as the circuit. In Canada, we call it the circuit. And other parts of the world, if you ever see it on a movie, they call it the pattern.
Okay.
Now what that is it's an imaginary part rectangle that's in the sky above an airport.
Okay.
So we have to enter into these imaginary highways in order to do our landing. Now we are going to be landing on that runway that you see going in this direction, but we're not allowed to just come in and land unless we had an emergency.
Okay.
We have to go in this direction until we get midway of that airport. Then we're going to have to fly left right over top of the airport.
Okay.
Then we have to turn left again, another left, and then another left, which is our final approach. So we're doing this, like I said, an imaginary box above the airport. So from here it actually gets quite confusing. What I'll do is I'll take control, so I have control, and I'm going to start lowering us down to our circuit altitude, which is 1,000 feet over the ground. So in this area, that means it's going to say 1,800 on this.
Okay, so we're 800 above sea level.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so we calibrate these to sea level every day based on the barometric pressure.
Approaching altitude.
So there's a barometric pressure today when I left Edenvale.
Okay.
So that told it where the sea level was. So right now, in theory, we should be 1,000 feet over the ground. Of course, they're not perfectly accurate, but not bad. So always in the vicinity of this airport, we're always going to get a little bit of thermal activity.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So here's that turn I'm talking about. So the reason why we do this is so we never hit another aircraft. Okay? So all aircrafts coming into this airport would either be in front of us right now or following behind what we're doing.
Okay.
If they were here right now, they would already be going in this direction. We would see them and they'd be coming in to land.
Okay.
So we would never have a danger of hitting them. Just switching fuel tanks there.
And Midland traffic, Juliet Kilo Yankee is overhead the field to join a mid-left downwind 16.
This gives me an opportunity to look at the runway, make sure there's no animals on it, no cars.
Oh, get it, yep.
See the direction of the wind. Because with an aircraft, we always want to take off and land into the wind.
Unicom Oscar Alpha X-ray requesting radio check. And Oscar Alpha X-ray, Columbia Dutch 5x5.
So I'm flying about three-quarters of a mile past the airport.
Okay.
Traffic lift
In this area here, it's this road here. I've memorized it, so.
And Midland traffic, Juliet Kilo Yankee, turning mid-left downwind 16, full stop.
So even if you're flying in an Air Canada plane, they do the same type of thing.
Okay.
In this case, this is called our downwind leg.
Okay.
So we fly in this direction, and this is where the pilot would be checking to make sure everything is good for landing. In the case of planes that have wheels that retract, you want to retract your wheels at this point.
Okay.
Drop them. You want to make sure you have plenty of fuel for the landing, which I have lots. I have 47 liters and 32 liters.
Okay.
I make sure everything's green here. All my engine instruments are operating perfectly. The reason why we want to know that is we need to know if this is a landing we absolutely have to make or if we're able to go around. So since everything's green, that means if I have a tough time doing this landing, I just go up and around again.
Gotcha.
If something was red here, I would rethink that and really concentrate and make this landing happen.
Okay.
Midland traffic, Juliet Kilo Yankee, turning a left base 16.
So this is essentially where I slow the aircraft down. There's our runway that we're going to be landing at. Slowing this down by reducing my throttle. Getting the plane into this white area, which is called the white arc. That means it's safe to deploy my flaps. My flaps are located underneath the wing, and they hang down like two big doors, creating more surface area of the wing.
Leaving altitude.
I'm trying to maintain 60 to 65 knots for this final approach. Never want it to go slower than 60.
Midland traffic, Juliet Kilo Yankee, his final 16, full stop.
A little bit of wind's coming at every different angle here.
Going
with traffic, it's Foxtrot Uniform Quebec Mike entering the zone for the south. So we'll be crossing overhead join and left down runway 13.
Well, this is our final approach. I'm just maintaining a certain airspeed, never want it to go too fast and certainly not too slow. And I'm controlling the speed by my stick. If I want this plane to speed up right now, if I see that it's going too slow, I pitch my nose down.
Okay.
And to slow down, I pull back.
Okay.
I'm pretty much off on the power, so we're doing that gliding I told you. We have essentially a failed engine.
Okay.
So we're making it. I actually need a little bit of power, so I'm just dialing in a bit of power, carry us through. Now you're probably feeling a little more secure, getting closer to the ground.
Yeah.
So right now, the engine is totally not doing anything. So this is what it would have been like landing in that farmer's field. And we're down.
Good.
Get rid of those, I don't need those anymore. I'm using my feet to steer and to apply brakes. There's actually brake pedals way at the top of these foot controls.
Okay.
And there comes the heat, you can feel it radiating right away.
Yeah.
And Midland traffic, Juliet Kilo Yankee down and clear, active 16 on Bravo to the apron.
So how was that?
Excellent.
Awesome.
Very good.
Glad you enjoyed it. You kept your stomach together and everything?
Yeah, no, it's good. Very good.
Awesome.
I get used to those up and downs and then...
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a little while. It's a security thing, and I get it, right?
It's the unknown.
Yep. I remember having it,
Yeah.
and I remember it lasted for quite a few hours of training.
Yeah. And then it just goes away.
It eventually, yeah, once you really understand what's going on with the aircraft and you really feel secure in them, then it just disappears.
Yeah.
I'm sure we probably all had that the first time we rode a bicycle, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to remember it, but we probably all had those same butterflies, the freak out, feeling the balance move, and then now you'll never feel that again, right?